Alright guys, today I want to share with you how I stopped selling coaching and I started selling results, and it completely transformed my business. So first of all, I need to explain to you a little bit of a backstory as how this came about. I've been coaching for over 10 years, and when I first started, I was shouting out, all my advertisements were about the services I offered, because just like you probably are passionate about your service, passionate about what you offer and how you deliver that service, I was shouting about all the specific deliverables in my actual service, and that was massively hurting my business, right? My advertisements would say 24/7 WhatsApp support. I know you all probably see this, you think, why do people put that there? Because you can't even do that. You're not a robot. You can't answer people at 2 a.m. if you're asleep. But we advertised that 24/7 was support, accountability, training plans, nutrition plans. That was what I was doing in the fitness space, right? Bear in mind, this was 10 years ago, and I continued to do that for a couple of years. I was copying everyone else because at the time I thought, the best way to do it is by copying the people that I think are doing well. But what you come to realize is most people in business have no idea what they're doing, and most people, unfortunately, are not doing very well. So what I come to learn was it's the results you need to be selling, and the massive companies, they truly know and understand this. They've got billions of dollars over years going into advertisement, going into marketing, because they are, they're able to get hold of these experts to make sure that the message of what they want to convey to the actual customer is being sent, and it's being heard, and it's relatable. So just a quick two little stories of companies you know and understand, right? Let's talk about Nike first of all. Now, when you think of Nike, what do you think of when you think of the actual product? Some of you may not know they started off as a shoe company. That was what they focused on. We've talked about niching down at the very beginning and everything like that, target market, all that sort of stuff. We've done that before in other videos. I'm not going to do that today. But that was their product. That was what they specialized in. And they specifically were pinpointing these sports stars, these athletes, and trying to build the shoe around that individual person. That's what they pivoted to, especially when you think of the Jordans, right? What am I trying to tell you here? They don't use their advertisements or their marketing to actually tell you how good the fabric is inside this shoe. I was going to say software then. They don't tell you how good the actual shoe is. They don't tell you it's going to make you score more goals in football. They don't tell you it's going to grip the ground better. It's better togs than Adidas or anything like that. They don't play that game at all. What game they do play is they sell you the feeling, the identity. That's what they purely focus on. They attach the association of their shoe with your favorite player, and you think if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, or I want to be like that guy one day, and you buy their shoe. That's literally the game they play when it comes down to advertisement and marketing. They basically place their product in someone you trust and want to be like, and then why wouldn't you wear the same stuff as them? Are you too good not to wear what the best player in the world is wearing? No. So that was their game all along. They understood it's not about the specifics, or as much as it actually is. Yes, you've got to have an unbelievable product and you want to make your service exceptional, but selling that to the individual, especially with the front end, top of funnel marketing advertisements, it's not going to get the message across that you want to. That's further down the funnel when someone's having to feel the shoe. They're in the shop, they're trying it on. That's that game. That's further down the funnel, right? You need to think of it like that. So when you apply that then to your coaching, ask yourself, am I shouting about the specifics of my service, or am I selling the dream result feeling? And we'll get, by the end of this video, to identify exactly what that dream result feeling is for your customer. This is what we talked about in a previous video where we talked about the deep framework to truly understand your customer's problems. What I want you to understand today, because we talked about defining the surface level problems, we talked about the emotion of how they feel right now, the effects of how that then impacts their life, and then the pain points if that was to continue to happen over time. What I want to talk to you about today is the flip side of that, the dream outcome. What does it look like if they achieve X result from your service? If they achieve the goal, if your product solves that problem for them, what is the dream outcome? What's happening in their life, both from a business perspective, if it's a business B2B offer, what does it look like from a personal perspective as well? Because it always comes back to being like humans anyway, even if you're selling B2B. It's either a team you're dealing with. So are they going to be less stressed? Are they going to be less stressed because they're not going over budget? You're saving them money if that's what you're doing. It usually always comes down to you're saving them money or making them more efficient so they can make more money. That's usually it with B2B offers. So anyway, that's the deep framework we talked about before. Another video for that if you want it. What I want to talk to you about today is how to identify that dream outcome. Another quick story to tell you about Apple. If you're a big fan of, understanding this from a story point of view, Apple what they did was they completely sold you on the emotion of who you identified with that product, right? And the way I can explain this is very simple. So Steve Jobs, you all probably know Steve Jobs. What you probably didn't know is Steve Wozniak, or was, as they used to call him, especially if you've seen the film. Really good film. And they co-founded the company, I think it was in, this is off the top of my head, 1975, I think it was around that time. Apple done really well, but Steve Jobs, if you've ever heard anyone talk about him, they say he was a very difficult person to work for because he came across as extremely arrogant because he was so driven by his own self-belief of he knew what people wanted. He always believed that he knew better than anyone else. And he had a famous quote, again, I'm going to misquote this, but is a rough quote of, how do people know what they want until it exists? Yeah, basically, because he's innovating at the end of the day, but he always believed that people don't know. I think he said something along the lines of this, right? It's something quite arrogant. People don't know what they want until I give it to them. I think it was something like that. But anyway, if you've heard Kevin O'Leary speak about this, he speaks about it a lot on Diary of a CEO, and he says that he was one of the most difficult people to work for, but he was right so much that the times he was wrong didn't matter. However, not technically true, because in the 80s, about a decade into Apple, being a decent company at the time on the stock market, on the stock exchange, the board actually decided to get rid of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company. Not many people know that, right? And then a decade or so later, Steve Jobs had pivoted, gone and started another company. It's become successful, nowhere near as big as what Apple was at the time. But then Apple, his previous company, then decided to buy him out because they were in serious financial strain. Apple was now. And they weren't going anywhere near where they wanted to go to. So they decided, right, let's bring Steve Jobs back. We need to buy his company to do that. I'm sure Steve Jobs made a lot of money by doing that anyway. And it was probably a kick in the teeth for Apple because they're now saying that, they're coming back basically and saying, we need you because it's not going to work without you. And he came back and in the same year, I don't know what the year was, and I don't want to butcher completely. I think it was 1997. Fact check me. Go to ChatGPT, fact check me. And if it's right, then bonus points for me. But what he did, he came up with a new campaign. It wasn't about a new product. It wasn't about a new software system. It was nothing to do with the specifics of the software. He looked back at what Apple had been doing, and they were selling the product. They were selling the innovations. They were speaking in technical terms. People didn't understand them. The mass market had no idea what the difference was. Do you even know what the difference is between this year's iPhone and the last year's iPhone? It's still happening to today. But he flipped the script on that. He didn't come out when he came back and started saying, right, we've got the best computer. We've got the best Mac. The Mac is the best. Our operating system is the best. Doesn't say that at all. Instead, they run one of the best advertisements and marketing campaigns you've probably ever seen. If you haven't seen, highly recommend you go and type it on YouTube after this video. Watch it all first. Type it in. Think different Apple. That's all you need to type in. You find it straight away. It's just over a minute long, and it'll probably leave you with goosebumps if you watch it. And when you know the impact that actually had as well, it'll leave you with goosebumps if you care about this stuff. And what it did was, it just associated, it took a leaf out of Nike's book and it associated all of the most famous, world-renowned individuals you can possibly imagine. People like Einstein, people like Picasso. It just highlighted them. Gandhi, loads of famous people, too many to think of, on there. Just snippets of them in black and white. It was really cool the way it put together. And it's a quote, one of my most favourite quotes from Steve Jobs in that film as well, where it says, "The people crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do." He's another one that should have been on that list. He should have been on that video. He will be today if it was done again. But that tripled their stock market price, their share price within 12 months. Transformed, revolutionized the company, because now basically what that said was, if these people were alive today, they would use a Mac. It didn't say that. It didn't say that at all, but that's what it implied with the way that it showed everyone. And it said that if you aspire to be like these people, or you look up to these people, Apple is the company that shares that same vision as you do. And I think it's absolutely genius. Like when you look back at it and you realize the impact it actually had. And then obviously like we sitting here today in 2025, we know where Apple then grew from then. To pull it out of the gutters the way he did, to come back after all of the people just doubting him for decades, man, to go through decades of that and being kicked out of your own company, to then come back and completely transform it. And just watch Steve Jobs' pictures as well. It's mind blowing. Like if you see it in the 2000s when the iPhone was being released, when the first iPod was released, it's crazy, and you need to analyze it and understand it. But just bringing it back now to what this point is for you, you need to realize that this is all about selling the dream outcome for the individual, selling the emotion of what your product delivers on who identifies with your brand, with your service, what type of people are you associated with, who's in your community. Is this where the person wants to be? Is this where the business wants to be? That's what you need to get across in your messaging, in your content, in your advertisements, in your offers. That's what needs to be hitting the nail on the head. If you just continue to shout about the product stuff, it's just never going to work, or it's going to be very, very slow and hard, and you're not going to stand out. So that would be my message to you. If you want to master this in terms of understanding every single part of your target audience, from using the deep framework to understanding your target audience to knowing where to find them, all of that stuff, we've put it together in a resource. You can get it at the link below. You don't need to message me. I was going to say then, like on Instagram, DM me the word target. But no, just go on there and you'll get the target audience identifier. It's a G sheet and an AI prompt to help you put it all together. And if you want to know more about what we do with Social Proof, we help clients get more clients online, basically. So we help people. We've got a software tool called Social Proof Page, and what it does is it just converts a lot higher. It builds a landing page for you. You upload all your social proof, it builds it for you in seconds. So yeah, click the link below if you want to try that out as well. There's a 28-day free trial. So let me know if you've got any questions, anything like that. Thank you very much, and I will see you